political angle, radio host Tony Katz and former Biden surrogate Kevin Wallen. So I just got to ask Tony, it is October, so is this the October surprise?
It would be weird to see an October surprise going against the political left. But I must say that I think the bigger story here, the tax one is a harder one to get across to America. It's a harder one to sell. Lying on the 4473 on the form that you fill out to purchase a handgun, that one's pretty easy, especially when you consider Kodak Black, the rapper. He was thrown in jail for the same exact issue. Allow Democrats to explain why a white man won't go to jail and a black man does. That's going to be a very interesting sell for Democrats in 2022.
So let's ask our resident Democrat, Kevin.
Well, certainly, Lawrence, we have more questions than answers with regards to Hunter Biden, and the process is playing out. I fully support what the Biden administration is doing in terms of leaving the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney for Delaware in place to handle this case. Merrick Garland, the attorney general, has had no impact or input with regards to this investigation and if charges are ultimately brought. But what we know right now is just what's been leaked in terms of this grand jury report and any kind of investigation. So obviously there are more questions than answers, but I think Americans should rest well that the DOJ is in independent hands with regards to Hunter Biden.
All right, so let's move on. Tony, that's just only some of the bad news. You got OPEC saying they're going to cut. You got crime still on the rise. Immigration is still a major problem. And inflation is still a problem for the Democrats. So how do you see this shaping out in this midterm election?
This economy is the story, and it's always been the story in this election. That isn't going to change, especially when that gas prices conversation you're talking about, Lawrence, where you had AAA already discussing the fact a little over a week ago that gas prices were going to go up. 2 million barrels a day being cut by OPEC, and magnify that or expand that conversation with President Biden and that trip that he took. He went to Saudi Arabia, and it was really seen as a level of begging Saudi Arabia to get OPEC to continue to pump the oil. They're not doing it. Now you see him in this idea of, some may call it cozying or increasing the relationship with Venezuela, these communists, to ensure that we have oil. But we're not doing anything about our own energy security. The Biden administration isn't in favor still and works against the idea of offshore drilling. It's bad on bad on bad, and it's about progressive policies. It isn't about what America could do to bring energy to the world.
You know, Kevin, you're a skilled communications guy. That's why our audience loves you. How do you paint a good picture for the Democrats going into the midterm? What message would you sell?
Well, listen, it's a really good question. We're less than 5 weeks away from the most consequential midterm election I think that we've seen in generations. I think women's rights are on the ballot, and you're seeing Democrats up and down the ballot campaigning in the wake of the Dobbs decision. But Lawrence, you and I and Tony have had long conversations about this going back months. I think the economy will be the #1 issue with regards to this midterm election. And you're seeing Democrats work really hard to talk about all the great things that we have done in terms of the Inflation Reduction Act, in terms of the CHIPS bill, in terms of the infrastructure bill. But we certainly have to do more. And I think what you're seeing with this administration is realizing that we brought a lot of carrots to Saudi Arabia and some of these other countries in terms of convincing them to increase their production. Now it's time to bring some sticks, and there's many things that we can do to do that and hopefully increase that production, not just in this country, but around the world.
I'm curious, what stick? The last time we saw a stick was Biden telling Russia, you better not invade Ukraine. What stick?
Kevin?
Well, Tony, I think #1, we're a net exporter of oil and gas right now. We can do a lot of things in this country with the amount of oil that we're producing to keep that here at home. And you're seeing Secretary Granholm and others move in that direction potentially.
The problem, and I got to go, fellas, the problem is it's still not helping. I'll have you guys back next week.